The year 1985 featured the release of such films as Back to the Future, The Goonies, The Breakfast Club, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Teen Wolf, and Commando. Dio released the album Sacred Heart, while Dire Straits released Brothers in Arms. Whitney Houston also released her self-titled debut. On television, The Golden Girls, MacGyver, and Growing Pains all made their debuts, while the cable network VH1 was launched. The year also saw the launch of the revolutionary gaming console, the Nintendo Entertainment System. But all this paled in comparison to what was happening in the World Wrestling Federation. Vince McMahon bet everything on one mega event, bringing together all forms of pop culture with professional wrestling at the forefront. Join us on this trip as we travel back to 1985. With his hatred at a boiling point, Rowdy Roddy Piper kept things hot, confronting Mr. T on the set of his hit television show, The A-Team. Mr. T had voiced his disgust for what Piper did to his friend Cyndi Lauper and would appear in the front row of the MTV special, The War to Settle the Score. WWF champion Hulk Hogan would defend his title against Piper, with the bout ending in a no contest and Mr. T hopping the guardrail. The main event was set for the most important show in company history, WrestleMania. Hulk Hogan and Mr. T hosted public workouts in Chicago and New York, while Piper and his chosen partner, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, spent their time training in the sauna with their corner man, Cowboy Bob Orton. On March 31st, the celebrities came out for WrestleMania in Madison Square Garden, with the main event featuring a cavalcade of stars. Liberace made a grand entrance with the Rockettes before taking a seat as the guest timekeeper. Baseball great Billy Martin served as the guest ring announcer, while boxing icon Muhammad Ali was the special guest referee on the outside of the ring. Pat Patterson served as the referee inside the ring, with Piper's arch rival Superfly Jimmy Snuka standing in the corner of Hogan and Mr. T. After a wild brawl in front of a raucous crowd, Hogan would pick up the pinfall on Orndorff. The crowd roared in approval, while Piper left the ring in a rage, planning his next move. The event was considered a huge success, further cementing the promotion as the mountaintop for professional wrestling. WWF would strike a deal with NBC, birthing the classic show Saturday Night's Main Event, occurring a handful of times per year. The debut episode took place on May 11th and featured an infamous edition of Piper's Pit, featuring Piper blaming Orndorff for their WrestleMania loss. This would lead to the formation of an alliance between Orndorff and champion Hulk Hogan, catapulting Orndorff into the position of a top babyface. Piper and Orndorff engaged in brawls across the country, resulting in a big match on the October 5th edition of Saturday Night's Main Event. The two brawled all over the arena, with Piper eventually locking himself in a room backstage and Orndorff forced to fight another day. Don Muraco returned to the promotion in 1985, battling WWF champion Hulk Hogan in a series of matches inside Madison Square Garden. The feud culminated in a bloody steel cage match, with the Hulkster emerging victorious. Muraco went on to film a series of humorous vignettes with manager Mr. Fuji. The most popular of these satires was Fuji Vice, featuring the two as bumbling detectives. The year featured some notable debuts, including King Kong Bundy, the British Bulldogs, Davey Boy Smith, and the Dynamite Kid, Hercules Hernandez, the Killer Bees, Corporal Kirshner, the Mouth of the South Jimmy Hart, and the formation of the Hart Foundation, Bret Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart. The biggest debut occurred in the summer, as Macho Man Randy Savage graced a WWF ring as the industry's top free agent. Savage would eventually handpick his manager, the lovely Miss Elizabeth. His stock would quickly rise, even attacking WWF champion Hulk Hogan on an episode of Championship Wrestling, resulting in a big Madison Square Garden bout on December 30th. The debut of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat created a fresh mid-card scene, resulting in great bouts against Cowboy Bob Orton, the Magnificent Don Muraco, Macho Man Randy Savage, and WWF Intercontinental Champion Greg the Hammer Valentine. Steamboat couldn't dethrone the champion, but the hammer would come down on Valentine. On July 6th in Baltimore, Maryland, Tito Santana would regain his Intercontinental Championship from Valentine inside of a steel cage. Another fresh face on the scene was Terry Funk, who quickly made waves, attacking a ring attendant and catching the attention of the man he feuded with for the rest of the year, the Junkyard Dog. Funk even got a title shot against Hulk Hogan on December 7th inside of the Philadelphia Spectrum, nearly brawling with commentator Gorilla Monsoon at ringside. The living legend Bruno Sammartino was coaxed to return to the ring by Rowdy Roddy Piper. They faced in a series of bouts, with the feud culminating in a wild steel cage match in the Boston Garden. The original screwjob in WWF history took place on November 25th in Madison Square Garden. Coming off a successful outing at WrestleMania, WWF Women's Champion Wendy Richter defended her title against the Spider, a masked woman clad in all black. At a moment's notice, the Spider rolled up Richter with the referee counting fast to 3. The new Women's Champion unmasked to reveal her true identity to be the Fabulous Moolah. Richter unceremoniously left the promotion. George the Animal Steele appeared on an edition of Tuesday Night Titans alongside manager Captain Lou Albano. Dr. Sigmund Ziff claimed that he could turn Steele into a genius via shock therapy. Once Dr. Ziff began the therapy, Steele formed a smile on his face. He then said, "How now, brown cow?" before throwing the headset to the floor and running off the set. The tag team division stayed strong, with Barry Windham and Mike Rotundo forming the U.S. Express under the tutelage of Captain Lou Albano. They began the year defeating Adrian Adonis and Dick Murdoch to win the WWF Tag Team Championships, but were quickly tested by Freddie Blassie's team of the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov. Blassie would help his team capture the gold at WrestleMania, but lose them back to the U.S. Express by the summer. Johnny Valiant put together his own team, uniting Greg Valentine and Brutus Beefcake to form the Dream Team. They'd go on to win the tag titles, defeating the U.S. Express on August 24th in the Philadelphia Spectrum. The Dream Team would continue to dominate the division for the rest of the year. Bobby the Brain Heenan put up $15,000, claiming that no man could slam Big John Studd. Andre the Giant accepted the challenge, still chomping at the bit to get revenge on Studd. The two squared off in a body slam challenge at WrestleMania, with Andre prevailing as the true giant and throwing the prize money to the Madison Square Garden crowd. Studd and Heenan formed a new strategy, forming an alliance with King Kong Bundy to cut down Andre and stand tall as the giants of the WWF. Andre would reach out to his friend Hulk Hogan to even the score against Heenan's Giants on the November 2nd Saturday night's main event. Another wedding would occur in the company, resulting in a monstrous rating for the October 5th Saturday night's main event. Hillbilly Jim's Uncle Elmer would tie the knot for the world to see, despite Rowdy Roddy Piper disrupting the segment, saying that the whole thing stinks. The first pay-per-view in company history occurred on November 7th, titled The Wrestling Classic, featuring a 16-man single elimination tournament. The star of the tournament was undoubtedly Macho Man Randy Savage, but that wasn't enough to win the whole thing, losing in the finals by countout to the Junkyard Dog. The main event featured another championship confrontation between WWF champion Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper. Once again, nothing was solved between the two, and the fire from their feud still burned. Would Piper continue his chase for the WWF Championship, or would the Hulkster move on to bigger challenges? Find out next time on Squared Circle History.